You've been lied to. Modern culture has convinced parents that authority is oppressive, that children should find their own way, and that parenting is just about supporting their choices. But look around. Does that actually work? Families today are weaker, more chaotic, and more disconnected than ever before. And it's no accident. We are living in an age that is fundamentally allergic to authority, and that cultural shift has seeped into the way that we raise our children. I've spent years studying this: education in psychology, professional experience in organizational design and human behavior, and now 4 years as a full-time stay-at-home dad. And what I've found is how you view truth and authority, community, and individuality will determine whether your family thrives or falls apart. So in this video, I'm going to lay it all out. How we got to this place in our attitude with authority, how that has shaped families and modern parenting philosophies. Because if you don't understand this, not only will you struggle as a father, but you will unknowingly be working against yourself. Gentle parenting is an obvious allergy to truth and authority. It's an unwillingness and inability to exercise that authoritative or authoritarian, either of those two quadrants. Gentle parenting is to say, well, the only thing that you're allowed to do is delegate and be supportive. What we want to do is we want to understand, how did that come to be conceptually? How did that idea take hold that being directive is bad and we should just skip those parts and go straight to being supportive and empowering our children? I studied psychology, sociology, political science, having thought about this for a few years now, and having looked at it both through the lens of studies as well as military leadership and corporate and government management work experiences. It is my theory that people have sort of a permeable barrier between how they think about politics and how they think about family. It's going to influence you subconsciously. Why is there this cultural knee-jerk reaction, this cultural allergy to authority today? And what are its implications? And what would it look like to unwind that problem? So we're looking at a map of some camps, some ideological terms, and they're overlaid against a triangle. Now, the top of that triangle is truth and authority at the top of that triangle. In the bottom left of the triangle is community, and in the bottom right is individuality. Now, depending on your attitude toward those three concepts, what's your attitude toward truth and authority? What's your attitude toward community? And what's your attitude toward individuality? If we know the answer to those three questions, then we know what your worldview, your ideology is on this is principally a political ideology landscape. So if your top priority is authority, and so much so that you don't care about either community or individuality, then you're a totalitarian. If all you care about is individuality, and you're not interested in authority or truth, and you're not interested in community, then you're a hedonistic nihilist. Then if you're only interested in community, you see that as the most important thing, and you don't like truth and authority, and you don't like individuality, well, then you're a collectivist. You want a utopia. Now, those three things are not very prevalent or taken very seriously, but they're the benchmarks, they're the points of reference at the far extremes of this triangle. What is much more common in our contemporary world and in recent living memory are the other three, where there's an allergy, a reaction, an opposition to one of the three things. And that puts you on an axis between the remaining two. Let's start with, if you have an allergy to the community. That comes out this way: I don't think I should have to conform to your social conventions. I don't want other people's noses in my business. I want to live however I want to live, and I don't think you should impose on me any restrictions or any duties. That's starting to sound like a real person you might know who would probably call himself a libertarian. Now, the other word there is oligarchy. And the reason is because if you're a libertarian, but you're not allergic to the idea of authority, the kind of thing you find here a lot is like the Rockefellers. You find like railroad tycoons or captains of industry, where you're really in an individualized race up the hierarchy. And then I'm talking about like both the economic hierarchy and also the political influence hierarchy. And so you get this oligarchic effect of the people at the top form a little club of the most powerful and influential and richest people. So that is a libertarian and oligarchic system. And there are people today, they might not use those words, they might use some of those words, but we can all think of who that evokes in our mind, okay? Now, on the other side are people who say, actually, this whole individualism thing is the thing I don't like. I don't like you atomizing me into just an individual. I think community is important, and I am okay with some form of authority, but I really think that it's a mistake to be too individualistic. I think that we should impose a lot of duties on other people. I think that people who have more have a duty to give to those who have less. And if they don't do that of their own free will, that's okay. We'll use authority to take it from them. And so there becomes a very obvious and immediate battle of the wills, competing power struggle between the libertarian oligarchs and, on the other side, either, and people are not going to like this no matter how I slice it, but whether you consider yourself a Marxist or a fascist, or if some people would call you that, even if you don't like those terms, that's what's happening, is you're saying, no, you can't be an individual and do what you want. We, the community, whether that community is based in economic class or it's based in ethnic and national identity, either way, we have a shared community identity, and we're going to impose burdens so that people can't just do what they want. We're going to be much more restrictive in how people conduct their lives. And we're not afraid to use authority to do that. That makes you a Marxist or a fascist. I have no doubt you can think of some people in real life who would use those talking points, even if they wouldn't embrace these labels. All right, and then the bottom one is if you're really allergic to authority or the idea of truth, of objective truth. But you kind of play in this land of like, I like community, but I also like individuality. I like people to be able to do what they want, but I also think people should have restrictions that ensure that they are being appropriately respectful of the community and different communities. Then you're a postmodern relativist. You reject truth and you reject authority. You are allergic to those things, but you embrace both individual expression and you embrace community identity. So that's the landscape. Human flourishing, the fancy word for which is eudaimonia. That's a Greek word that goes back to the Stoics and Plato and Aristotle. Eudaimonia, human flourishing, can only occur when we have all three of these ingredients in some healthy proportion. We have to have all three things. The question is to what degree and in what way. And there is, I am confident, quite a bit of play in the joints. But if you have either an obsession with one to the extreme or an allergy to any of the three, then you will not be able to flourish as an individual or as a society, or between those two things, as a family. So in order to flourish, you have to have a healthy relationship with truth and authority. You have to have a healthy relationship with community. And you have to have a healthy relationship with individuality. And without going through all the permutations, one thing that seems clear to me is that gentle parenting, which is taking the mamasphere by storm, which is probably the most influential ideological camp today with regard to marriage, family life. The underpinning, the permeable layer between the parenting philosophy and the political ideology is gentle parenting is how you parent when you are a postmodern relativist. When you have an allergy to any form of hierarchy or authority, and when you have an allergy to any kind of truth. And so once you say that about higher authorities that you as an adult are unwilling to submit to, well, then you're kind of forced, if you're going to be at all consistent, to also say, well, I'm not in any position to impose my authority or my truth on you. You, my child, have your own truth. You can submit or not submit to any authority that you want, because I'm skeptical that any such a thing even exists. In fact, I may adamantly insist that they do not exist. And so gentle parenting is the parenting mode the only parenting mode that is left when you deny truth and authority, when you can't answer the question, why? So we've covered authority directly. We've talked about how our relationship with authority in our society today is influenced by these different political camps, and how that thinking seeps into the way we think about marriage and family life and parenting. And yes, what we're going to cover next, this is exactly what you think it is for all you other veterans in the audience. We're going to talk about how to think about how those things play out in real life, how a healthy balance of authority, individuality, and community, what does that look like? How do you know when you're doing it well? And what dynamics are in play when each of those ingredients exists in a healthy proportion so that human flourishing is possible. I hope you are getting a lot of value out of this. I hope that this is giving you some tools and sort of footholds in what is a very foggy, very confusing landscape of parenting philosophy and how it is shaped by our contemporary culture. But I want to admit that it is very difficult for me to help you as the viewer fully understand and internalize and apply these principles to your situation in this one-way communication medium. And so that is why, in addition to this YouTube channel, Fit for Fatherhood, or F4F, is available online as a source of additional material, and most importantly, as a real world, as well as online, a both virtual and in-person community for fathers to better understand these kinds of concepts and work through how to understand and apply them in their own lives in community, in a live, interactive mode. Because my experience years ago, when I stepped back from my career, is that, as we have here on the screen under the Fit for Fatherhood mission page, is that being a man today is incredibly isolating. And there are reasons for that we can identify and trace their causes, and we can pursue solutions to them in our generation and in the next. But the first step is recognizing that we're fighting an uphill battle today. I have been, you are, and I'm trying to, one, save you the time and frustration that I went through for years of trying to sort this all out on my own. And two, is establish an environment, a community at Fit for Fatherhood where men can overcome the hand that they've been dealt of this kind of geographic and personal isolation that plagues men today. So the vision at Fit for Fatherhood is a flourishing society resulting from fathers embracing their role as the central pillar of a thriving family, leading with purpose, wisdom, and love. And we achieve that vision through the intent of creating a community of husbands and fathers, that's you, with shared values who can grow together through peer mentorship and accountability. So now you see the problem. Modern society has taught men to fear authority, to avoid leadership, and to believe that just being supportive is enough. But we both know that's not how families work. That's not how our children thrive. So how do you restore authority in a way that builds up rather than breaks down your family? How do you recreate structure, order, and authority, not in a way that is domineering, but through authentic leadership? That's exactly what we'll cover in the next video. Click the video on your screen or use the link in the pinned comment below, and we'll begin our discussion, and we'll discuss how to genuinely lead your family with purpose and wisdom. Watch now, because if you stop here, all you've done is diagnose the problem without finding a solution.